The Kuo-toa, also known divisively as Gogglers, are an ancient race of intelligent, typically neutral evil or chaotic evil fishmen. They look like paunchy humans covered in scales, topped with a fish head. They have huge fish eyes, undersized arms and legs, and long, partially webbed hands and feet, and 3 fingers and an opposing digit. Kuo-toa are typically pale gray in coloration. Males have undertones of tan or yellow. Gogglers reek of dead fish. Their skin tone darkens when they are angry and pales when they are badly frightened. Adult Kuo-toa are amphibious. Although Kuo-toa can attack with a sharp bite, most are well armed. Elite warriors and priests often use harpoons and pincer staves, respectively. Kuo-toan skin secretions make them physically slippery. They are immune to poisons and paralysis, partially immune to electrical attacks, and unaffected by most spells targeting humanoids. Kuo-toa hate bright light and are weakened by strong illumination. They have incredibly fine senses and are difficult to surprise. Elite Gogglers may become priests, priest thieves, monitors, a variant monk, fighters, and whips, fighter thieves. Those possessing thieves' skills are also trained as assassins. The Gogglers vanished from the surface of Abertorel well before the dawn of recorded human history. However, scattered lore suggests that the Kuo-toa are distant kin of the nomadic Locath. Ancient legends suggest that the Kuo-toa evolved amphibious qualities and colonized shores and islands of the upper world before being driven back into the sea by humans and demi-humans. Other tales suggest that their deep hatred for surface dwellers is misplaced and stems from the earliest appearances of modified land dwellers, sea elves, mermen, etc., who colonized their underwater domain. In any event, an extended war nearly exterminated the species, and the survivors fled to deep-sea caverns and secret subterranean waters. Forgotten by their ancient enemies, they adapted to their new environment. In the Kuo-toa version of history, surface dwellers drove them from their habitat. Some scholars link this event to the Second Saros War between the inner seas nearly 10 millennia ago. Kuo-toan survivors fled into the deepest trenches and made their way into the Underdark. Kuo-toa of the Sea of Fallen Stars in particular are said to have retreated into the depths surrounding the Altumble Peninsula and into the Underdark. During the migration, the Gogglers encountered something that transformed their culture and introduced a streak of insanity. Some legends say the Kuo-toa were enslaved by the Morkoth. Others whisper that the Gogglers awoke some buried elder gods. Today, Kuo-toa are found primarily in the middle Underdark, although scattered enclaves mostly dominated by another allied race are found throughout the upper and lower reaches. In ages past, Kuo-toa dominated great cavern complexes along the shores of most great subterranean lakes. Now they are in decline, driven into marginal subterranean oases by more aggressive races who fight for territory. As a result, only a few great cities survive. Temples of the Sea Mother remain in relatively wet caverns near great bodies of water, but most Kuo-toa dwell far from their ancestral territories in small tribal groupings, forced to make arduous pilgrimages to the race's sacred shrines. Shrines are open to all Kuo-toa, as well as other races who may come to trade and serve as forums for intergroup trade, councils, and worship of the Sea Mother. Away from the shrines, Kuo-toan tribes are uncooperative, dwelling in small primitive clusters around a natural spring or an underdark river with a continuous water supply. Kuo-toan society is rigidly segregated in castes. Every individual knows his or her place, fawning over betters and ordering inferiors about as slaves. The fused monarchy and clergy exemplifies the worst excess of feudalism and fanatic theocracy. The largest Kuo-toan cities are ruled by the Vagpulgol, a Kuo-toan term that translates roughly as priest-king, signifying rulership of both the city-state and the clergy of Biblopolop. Attendant priests, nominally known as the Orgpolgopan, or priest dukes, rule alongside. Small cities are ruled by a Bapulgol, or priest prince, or individual org pool goal. Lower-ranking priest thieves are known as V-plagoop, a term that roughly translates as eyes of the priest king, while single-caste priests are known as Ba-plagoop, or pincers of the priest king. The authority of the clergy nobility is enforced by Valskor, or whips, fanatical devotees of the Sea Mother who inspire Kuo-toa warriors to fight without quarter for the glory of their ruler and goddess monitors, members of an elite celibate order who are known as Blib-san-vu, watch for community members who become violent or insane, subduing or killing them as appropriate. The sacred duty of monitors are clear in the case of commoners who descend into the madness, but the increasing incidence of insanity among the nobility has led to varying interpretations of the teachings of the Sea Mother as their proper fate. The caste system extends to Kuo-toan young, known as fingerlings. Those of normal spawning are raised apart from the common hatchlings and trained as priests. Priest thieves or monitors, Kuo-toan slaves are drawn from nearly every surface or subterranean sentient race and make up at least 25% of the total population. While the highest ranking noble theoretically has absolute authority over all creatures within his territory, the power is tempered by the need to find consensus among the fractious gogglers. In fact, the increasing incidence of infighting among the Kuo-toa has done much to undercut the ruler's absolute authority, forcing them to seek alliances with other high-ranking Kuo-toa to ensure continued rule. Nonetheless, given the widespread insanity of a society structured to prevent the removal of those unfit to hold office, many Kuo-toan communities suffer under their leader's madness. Tell me about it. Blib-dul-poop, the Sea Mother, is an evil goddess of the elemental plane of water. She is usually depicted as a common human female with the head and claws of a lobster. Her representation may suggest either her origins or her ambitions. Any tradition of wizardly pursuits among the Kuo-toa has long been lost, and magic is concentrated among the clerical elite. As such, while the Kuo-toa have created many magical items and prayers, such manipulations of the weave are governed by Blib-dul-poop ethos. Most domers crafted by the Gogglers relate to their ancestral origins in the seas above, and include shells, pearls, coral, and the like as material components. Kuo-toan communities centered around communal pools, a tradition believed to harken back to the race's ancestral residence in the tidal pools of the world above. Pools and channels are used for relaxation, transportation, spawning, and rearing fingerlings. Freestanding buildings are few, as Gogglers prefer to employ the central cavern as a community gathering place, market, and temple, with individual residences carved into cavern walls. Some pools are covered with great glass domes, but most are left open. Statues of the Sea Mother are common, especially atop ziggurats, remembrance of those built by the ixzan. The largest pyramids are typically built in the centers of shallow pools, encircled by great stone steps that serve as both stairs leading down into the pool and great amphitheaters on which the adults of the community can assemble to observe unholy rites. Kuo-toan architecture retains marine elements, with shells and shell designs used throughout and blue-green gems embedded in valuable objects. Kuo-toan artisans labor to embed alien thought patterns in the worlds of such swell motifs. Anyone staring long enough at Kuo-toan architecture is said to risk madness. Kuo-toan range far afield from their settlements and are often encountered in the wild Underdark tunnels. Warrior patrols goaded by whips are frequent near Kuo-toan communities. Pilgrims travel to distant temples of the Sea Mother both to sacrifice and trade with other races. Elite companies of Kuo-toa sometimes travel to the surface world to seize or trade for slaves, sacrifices, shells, and pearls. Gogglers are superb fishermen, diving deeply to gather crabs and fish, and they often cross another race's territory to do so. While Gogglers prefer a diet of flesh, they also raise fields of kelp and fungi for food. Such fields, lit by strange phosphorescent fungi, are tended by slaves and Kuo-toan observers. While the Kuo-toa are poor miners, they often employ slaves to mine mineral ores from promising veins. They prize every blue-green gem or pearl discovered, but otherwise gladly part with jewels in exchange for slaves, food, weapons, shells, or pearls. The Kuo-toa also mine seabeds for shells, pearls, and other sacred relics. Kuo-toa hate most other Underdark races and generally loathe all surface dwellers. This feeling is shared by other races, for the Kuo-toa indiscriminately sees others as slaves and or sacrifices. Nonetheless, Gogglers willingly trade with most other races who provide useful goods and services, even Drow and humans. Illithids and their allies, however, are attacked on site, and many Kuo-toan communities have running hostilities with neighboring mind flayers, including frequent kidnappings and skirmishes.